Police. And with me today is Trooper Paul Anderson, Supervisor of our Firearms Administration Section. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you to discuss the Pennsylvania Instant Check System, commonly known as PICS. In 1993, the federal government passed the Brady Act, which requires background checks for certain firearms transactions. To facilitate these checks, the Brady Act established the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, or NICS. The Brady Act authorizes states to rely solely on the NICS system, implement their own background check programs, or use a combination of both. Along with 12 other states, Pennsylvania chose to implement its own system and become a full point-of-contact state with NICS. Act 17 of 1995, which created PICS, was formulated by a committee that included members of the House and Senate, the National Rifle Association, the United Sportsmen of Pennsylvania, the Office of Attorney General, the Governor's Office, and numerous other interested groups. They reached a consensus that Pennsylvania's citizens would best be served by requiring the state police to establish, maintain, and operate Pennsylvania's own instantaneous background records check system for firearms transactions. PICS became operational on July 1st, 1998. It is housed within the Firearms Division of our Bureau of Records and Identification. The Firearms Division encompasses 4 different units: the PICS Instant Check Unit, the PICS Challenge Unit, the Firearms Compliance Unit, and the Firearms Records Check Unit. Each of these units operates autonomously, but all are reliant on the PICS Instant Check Unit and, in particular, the background checks conducted by this unit. PICS provides licensed firearms dealers, Pennsylvania sheriffs, and the Philadelphia Police Department with immediate access to background check information on individuals attempting to purchase a firearm, receive a firearm through transfer, or apply for a license to carry a firearm. As mandated by statute, PICS operates 365 days a year and is accessible from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. To give perspective to the scope of the operation, the Firearms Division has an authorized complement of 3 enlisted members and 94 civilian personnel. Of those, 1 enlisted corporal, 8 civilian supervisors, and 53 legal assistants are assigned to the PICS Instant Check Unit. Due to employee turnover and hiring issues, 5 to 8 of the legal assistant positions have been vacant for over a year. Since its inception, PICS has processed over 6.6 million calls for background checks, an average of more than 550,000 calls per year. In 2009, the PICS Instant Check Unit processed a record high number of 663,000 background checks, which was followed up in 2010 by 645,475 checks. The PICS Instant Check Unit and the Pennsylvania State Police have prevented prohibited persons from illegally obtaining firearms more than 100,000 times. Recently, some have expressed the sentiment that the Commonwealth would be better served by allowing the National Instant Check System to conduct all background checks for Pennsylvania firearm transactions. While on its face this may sound like a simple, cost-effective measure, please allow me to address some subtle issues which raise concern. At this time, Section 6111 of the Uniform Firearms Act requires a licensed dealer to contact the Pennsylvania State Police via telephone to conduct a background check prior to the sale or transfer of a firearm. When PICS receives a call, multiple sources are then checked, including both federal and state databases. Presently, the PICS check provides exclusive access to the database containing information on Pennsylvania involuntary mental health commitments. This database alone contains over 587,000 records of firearm prohibited persons, and it continues to expand daily. A check through NICS would not provide this information. Similarly, a background check through PICS provides access to the Commonwealth Law Enforcement Assistance Network called CLEAN. The access affords PICS the opportunity to view and gather records of arrest warrants, which may form the basis for a firearms disqualification. Again, this benefit is not fully available through NICS because not all warrants in CLEAN can be uploaded to NCIC. Recent attention has been centered on Pennsylvania and other states that cannot currently submit mental health records to the NICS database. These submissions are a complex issue with many challenges and obstacles. But rest assured, we are continuing to work with appropriate state and federal entities toward the common goal of submitting these records to NICS. In 2010, the PICS unit was directly involved in the capture of 114 wanted persons as a result of the PICS background check. For example, during a background check last August, a PICS legal assistant identified a subject who was wanted on armed robbery charges. As a direct result of the identification of follow-up actions of the PICS legal assistant, the subject was taken into custody, and this was while attempting to purchase a firearm. Since PICS became operational, PICS personnel have assisted in capturing 1,408 wanted persons. Not only is the PICS instant check system actively assisting in the capture of fugitives, it is also an important source for identifying and initiating investigations on possible straw purchases and falsifying of information on both state and federal firearms forms. Last year, the unit initiated 441 criminal investigations, which were forwarded to state, local, and federal law enforcement for follow-up investigation. In all, PICS has been responsible for initiating over 4,100 of these investigations, resulting in the arrest and successful prosecution of more than 2,150 criminals. PICS also provides a proactive means to fight domestic violence. When a background check call is forwarded to a legal assistant and the subject has an outstanding protection from abuse order, PICS personnel immediately notify the applicable police agency that the subject is attempting to acquire a firearm. An often overlooked service of PICS is its availability to provide every law enforcement department in the Commonwealth with background checks before returning firearms. To explain, there are many instances when law enforcement personnel are required to take possession of a firearm, whether it be directed by court order, for evidentiary purposes, for safekeeping during a domestic situation, and countless other situations. In many instances, that seized firearm is ultimately returned to its owner. Prior to the return, PICS enables a law enforcement agency to instantly determine whether the subject claiming the firearm is legally prohibited from possessing it. In 2010, PICS provided 4,250 checks for this purpose. In contrast, NICS cannot provide this service under federal law restrictions. The PICS and NICS processes and statistics are similar in many ways. With NICS, the initial call goes through a call center, where the dealer speaks with a live operator. Pending issues are then transferred to a NICS operator for further processing. With PICS, if there are no pending issues, the call is approved by an automated system rather than a live operator. Both PICS and NICS are operational or up and running for background checks over 98% of all available hours. Both have high immediate determination rates, PICS over 94% and PICS over 91%.
Major, if I could stop
Yes.
you for a moment. Because your testimony is about 8 pages, I think you're at a critical point here as far as the questions some of our members have. You mentioned if there are no issues. During the testimony of prior to you, there was some question as to the scope of what the state police believe are issues that would warrant someone being either prohibited. I think the case one that was identified. Can you talk a little bit about how you categorize? Is it written in statute, or have you expanded the scope in any way that we may want to have some discussions about? In particular, that ICE agent, that the individual who has may have had a fight in college, or if I remember the information, why would it show up under our system as a potential domestic abuse or a domestic incident and not show up under other states and under the national?
And Trooper Anderson, please correct me if I misspeak. Trooper Anderson's the expert. But we, certainly the law prohibits individuals with certain offenses from acquiring a firearm, purchasing or transferring, receiving a firearm. Domestic violence certainly is a sensitive issue. If a criminal history shows an arrest which potentially could be related to domestic violence, our folks take the initiative to determine whether or not it is. And we will normally request a copy of the investigative report for clarification and appropriate verification before a determination is made.
So I guess my question, and this has come up in other issues as well, Say there's an argument or a fight. Everyone is apprehended and then 2 days later released. Do you have I thought the law required a conviction or some type of legal action against someone. Are you saying now that any type of documentation, that even though there's no conviction or further action on this potential offense, that is qualified or could potentially disqualify someone? Because I think this is a very legitimate issue as far as the constitutional right of an individual and then the interpretational side of it.
Certainly.
Well, under this particular situation, it would be a conviction, not knowing and not having looked at this particular criminal record. I would have to surmise that when that record came back, there was no disposition on that record. If there's no disposition on that record, then we must do research to find out whether or not there